Inside the private room, Fong Yun and Jiang Yi sang a soulful duet right in front of me. Their silhouettes nearly overlapped on the karaoke screen. Jiang Yi's hand rested naturally on Fong Yun's waist, and she, who always claimed to hate physical contact, didn't pull away. Others in the room started hooting and hollering, some whistling, some clapping, everyone wearing the expression of someone enjoying a good show. The song ended. Before I could say anything, Jiang Yi offered me a cigarette. "Sorry, Director Qin," he said, a clear challenge in his smile. Yun's always been this. Passionate. I stared at the cigarette in his outstretched hand, but didn't take it. Yun, such an intimate way to call her. In our 3 years together, Fong Yun never let me call her that. "Thanks, I don't smoke," I replied coolly, my gaze shifting to Fong Yun. She stood beside Jiang Yi, clinging tightly to his arm, the same woman who supposedly hated physical contact. Whenever I tried to hold her hand in public, she'd snatch it away with disgust, saying, "I don't like physical contact. Don't touch me again." Apparently, rules were different for different people. It was just that Fong Yun's exceptions never included me. Seeing Jiang Yi lose face because of me, Fong Yun looked displeased. "Qin Yang, why didn't you take Jiang Yi's cigarette? It was just one song. Stop making a scene." I slowly put down my glass. "Fong Yun," I said calmly, "have you forgotten? I have asthma. I can't smoke, and I can't even be around the smell." Each word was deliberate, my voice so calm it felt foreign even to myself. Fong Yun's expression froze for a second before she averted her gaze. She took the cigarette from Jiang Yi's hand and took a light drag. "A little whiff won't kill you," she exhaled, smoke curling from her lips as her eyes drifted away. "Qin Yang, don't be so melodramatic." 3 years. She knew exactly how much I suffered during an asthma attack. Yet now, she allowed Jiang Yi to smoke right in front of me, even scolding me over a cigarette. What was there left not to understand? "Since you're being so passionate," I said, turning toward her best friend, Liang Li. I walked over, sat right beside her, picked up a shrimp, and started peeling it. "Here." I held the peeled shrimp up to Liang Li's lips. Fong Yun's face instantly turned cold. Liang Li glanced nervously at Fong Yun. "Qin Yang, you... What? Don't you like shrimp?" I kept the shrimp poised by her mouth, deliberately raising my voice. Liang Li hesitated, then opened her mouth and took it. A few gasps sounded around the room. I didn't need to look back to know how ugly Fong Yun's expression must be. "Is it good?" I asked Liang Li with a smile. She nodded, a bit of sauce clinging to the corner of her mouth. I picked up a napkin and gently wiped it away. "Qin Yang." Fong Yun's voice screeched from above me, so sharp it cracked. I slowly put down the napkin and looked up. "What's wrong? Am I not being considerate enough to Liang Li?" Fong Yun's face was icy, her voice thick with anger. "What do you think you're doing?" she asked through gritted teeth. She stood before Liang Li and me, Jiang Yi right behind her, one hand still resting on her shoulder. "Nothing much. Just saw Liang Li sitting here all alone and thought I'd keep her company." I paused deliberately, glancing at Jiang Yi's hand on her shoulder. "Just like how you kept Jiang Yi company singing. You're so passionate, I figure I should learn from you." Fong Yun looked at me, then at Liang Li, a vicious glint in her eyes. "Fine, Qin Yang. You've really grown a spine, haven't you? We're breaking up." The moment the words left her mouth, Jiang Yi, far from backing off, pulled her even closer, offering false counsel. "Director Qin, I don't mean to criticize, but starting a breakup over something so small? Aren't you being a bit petty for a grown man?" Fong Yun scoffed dismissively. "Don't worry," she said. "He wouldn't dare." There was again. I almost laughed out loud. I couldn't count how many times Fong Yun had used breaking up as a threat. It was always the same. The moment things didn't go her way, she played this card. And every single time, I'd bow my head, admit fault, buy her gifts and flowers, groveling like a pathetic dog begging for forgiveness. So, she was completely confident I would cave again this time. But this time was different. I was done humbling myself to please her. I spoke slowly. "There's nothing I don't dare to do. We're breaking up. I wish you happiness." A glass hit the floor with a sharp shatter. Red wine splashed onto Fong Yun's leg. Usually obsessed with cleanliness, she didn't even notice, just stood there stunned. The expression on her face shifted from contempt to shock, finally settling into a comical bewilderment. "Yep, what did you say?" Her lips trembled slightly, as if she couldn't believe her ears. I repeated calmly, enunciating each word, "We're breaking up." I pushed open the door to the private room and walked out without looking back. Behind me, I heard Fong Yun's hysterical screams and the sound of more bottles smashing. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. Back home, my phone started vibrating like crazy. It was a message from Fong Yun. Get your ass back here and apologize right now, and I can pretend none of this ever happened. Staring at her familiar profile picture on the screen, a wave of irony washed over me. For 3 years, every single argument, even when it wasn't my fault, I was always the first to back down. She was always high and mighty, and I was always groveling, apologizing. I replied with 2 words, dream on. Then decisively, I blocked Fong Yun on everything. Suddenly, my chest tightened, making it hard to breathe. It felt just like the day my dad ran off with his secretary, leaving home. My mom had crumbled just like this. She couldn't understand how the husband she'd shared a bed with for decades could just change his heart like that, how he could shamelessly bring another woman home to fool around, and then, after being caught red-handed, have the audacity to stand there blaming her for not fulfilling her duties as a wife. Her tears, her pleas, her breakdown. In his eyes, it was all just making an unreasonable scene. She couldn't wrap her head around it, so she lost her mind. During that time, I got calls from the sanatorium almost daily, telling me she'd driven away more caregivers, or that she'd try to cut her wrists again. After my mom was found following another failed suicide attempt, I finally broke. The caregiver sent a photo. Mom's wrist, thin enough to be almost skin and bone, still bore the marks from restraints. On the nightstand sat a pillbox, tablets scattered all over the floor. A grown man, I squatted down on a busy street and cried like my world was ending. In that moment, I felt like a complete and utter failure. I couldn't save my mom, and I couldn't save myself. Need a tissue? A clear voice came from above. I looked up, tears blurring my vision, and saw a slender, pale hand offering a pack of tissues. Following the hand upward, I saw a face, unfamiliar but kind. That's when Fong Yun burst into my world. Later, Fong Yun told me she'd been out shopping with friends that day when she saw a man in a suit, squatting by the roadside, crying his heart out. She figured he must have been going through something terrible. That day, haltingly, I poured out all the pent-up pain I'd kept hidden inside to this kind stranger. My father's affair, my mother's depression and suicidal tendencies, my broken home, everything I was powerless to change. Fong Yun didn't offer the usual platitudes like, you need to be strong, or hang in there, it'll get better. Instead, she just looked at me earnestly and said, this isn't your fault. Your mother's pain comes from her unfaithful husband, not because you did anything wrong. In that moment, it felt like a ray of light had suddenly pierced the desolate wasteland my world had become. 3 years have passed, and now I find myself trapped in the same kind of hell my mother endured. I can't reconcile the Fong Yun who once swore vehemently. I despise cheaters the most. Once something's tainted, it's better to just throw it away, with the Fong Yun who can now beam radiantly in another man's arms. I remember the first time she said that. We were on our first movie date. The female lead in the film was a serial cheater with countless affairs. When the movie ended and the lights came up, Fong Yun gripped my hand tightly, tears welling in her eyes. Qin Yang, promise me neither of us will ever betray the other. Looking at the photo Jiang posted on his Moments feed, Fong Yun nestled against him like a delicate bird, the intimacy between them practically radiating off the screen. I finally understood. It's not that vows change. It's that people's hearts are fickle. I slept in until noon. My phone was full of unread messages. I scrolled through them, mostly just friends checking in. One was from Liang Li. Are you okay? Qin Yang? Thinking about how I'd used her last night, and then just rushed off, I felt a pang of guilt. I decided to treat her to a meal, to properly apologize. I picked a restaurant and sent her the details. She immediately replied, okay. It was almost time before I finally dragged myself out of bed and headed out. After work meant cooking for Fong Yun and waiting for her to come home. Now, not having to worry about her every move, I felt a sense of relief I hadn't felt in a long time. I just didn't expect to run into Fong Yun at the restaurant. Warm yellow lights hung overhead. Liang Li was already there, head bowed as she looked through the menu. She was wearing a light-colored sweater today, and the ends of her hair were still slightly damp, as if she'd rushed over right after showering. You look very pretty today. I offered a polite compliment as I sat down. Liang Li's face instantly reddened. She awkwardly fiddled with the cuffs of her sweater and mumbled, I just threw this on. I'm sorry about last night. I began sincerely for dragging you into it. Liang Li shook her head, looking like she wanted to say something but hesitated. Just as I was about to explain further, the wind chime by the restaurant door suddenly tinkled crisply. Fong Yun strode in, wearing high heels, with Jiang beside her. Seeing Liang Li and me, Fong Yun's expression darkened. She stormed towards our table. Qin Yang, how dare you block me? She slammed her bag onto the table, making the tableware rattle loudly and drawing stares from the neighboring tables. I scoffed. We broke up. Isn't blocking normal? Her expression twisted for a moment, then immediately shifted back to that haughty look. Stop messing around, Qin Yang. If you apologize now, I might just forgive you. Take a good look at yourself. Who else would possibly want you? Is that so? I turned to Liang Li. Do you also think no one wants me? Liang Li's face turned even redder, but she shook her head firmly. Jiang Yi glanced at me, then sized up Liang Li before smirking. See, Xiaoyan? Told you someone already swooped in and stole him. Fang Yun's gaze darted between Liang Li and me. She nodded as if the pieces suddenly clicked into place. Uh-huh. So you two have been hooking up behind my back all along. Qin Yang, you went behind my back to hit on my best friend? Have you no shame? I watched with amusement as the real thief cried, "Stop, thief." Have you forgotten? I asked lightly. Besides being your best friend, Liang Li is also my co-worker from the same company. We're just colleagues having a meal together. I continued. Are you trying to sling mud at me first to cover your own tracks? Fang Yun's expression instantly soured. She must have remembered then. After all, I learned that particular tactic from her. 2 months ago, I had an asthma attack. Barely conscious, I struggled to video call her. But on the other end of the screen, she was at Jiang Yi's place. I begged her, for the sake of my illness, to come be with me, but she just clicked her tongue impatiently. Really, Qin Yang? It's just asthma. Order some medicine yourself. Oh, and don't call again. Jiang Yi has a cold and is still sleeping. Afterward, I hysterically demanded to know if, in her heart, my life or death mattered less than Jiang Yi catching a minor cold. Fang Yun's attitude was dismissive. Qin Yang, how many times do I have to tell you? Jiang Yi and I are just friends. Jiang Yi isn't very strong. What's wrong with me spending more time with him? Jiang Yi and I are completely innocent. Stop trying to smear my name. She said it so brazenly, so casually, as if I was always the one making unreasonable scenes. Those flippant words felt like a thin cord tightening around my throat, making it hard to breathe. Perhaps it was then that the thought of breaking up first crossed my mind. Fang Yun remembered. Her face went pale, her lips trembled, and she finally managed to force out a few words. Jiang Yi and I are just friends. I'd heard that line too many times. Now, I had no patience left for her excuses and denials. Right, you're just friends. Just regular friends who casually hug and hold each other all the time. Jiang Yi stepped forward, patting my shoulder with feigned understanding. Qin Yang, you're the one in the wrong here. Xiaoyan was just concerned about me. You're being too sensitive. Hurry up and apologize to Xiaoyan. Get your filthy hands off me. I coldly shook him off. You're pathetic too, fighting over my leftovers. I rubbed my temples and said slowly, Fang Yun, we've already broken up. Now, even if you and Jiang Yi go get a room together, I couldn't care less. Seeing my complete indifference, Fang Yun froze on the spot, momentarily speechless. I turned to Liang Li. This place is no good. Bad vibes. Let's go somewhere else. With that, ignoring Fang Yun's reaction, I took Liang Li's hand and stood up to leave. The early autumn wind carried a slight chill, but I could feel Liang Li's hand sweating slightly in mine. I let go of her hand and apologized. Sorry, that was impulsive. She shook her head, her eyes bright. It's okay, I don't mind. But Liang Li hesitated for a moment, then finally mustered the courage to say, Qin Yang, have you ever thought? You deserve better. I stopped walking and looked at her seriously. Like who? A blush spread across Liang Li's face. Though shy, her gaze was steady as she looked at me. Like me, Qin Yang, would you consider being with Liang Li? I cut her off. I'm sorry. I'm not in the right headspace for this right now. The light in Liang Li's eyes dimmed, but she quickly pressed her lips into a smile and tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear. I understand. Liang Li is a good woman, but I just couldn't bring myself to gamble on someone else's sincerity again. After getting home, I started packing for City A. I'm a capable employee, and my boss had wanted me to head the branch office in City A for a while. I'd hesitated before because of Fang Yun, worried the distance would make her feel insecure. Now I could finally leave this city without any reservations. Besides, the medical facilities in City A are much better than here. Once I'm settled, I can bring my mother over so she can get better treatment. Thinking about this lifted my spirits considerably, like a stone that had been pressing on my chest for ages was finally removed. I was in the middle of packing when Director Wang called, Qin Yang, about your appointment to the City A branch. It might have to be put on hold. My fingers, clutching a piece of clothing, suddenly tightened. What do you mean? Headquarters received a complaint. Director Wang's tone was icy. Someone reported you for moral misconduct. Director Wong's words hit me like a lead pipe. I opened my messages and saw the company-wide group chat filled with pictures from that night. Me peeling shrimp for Liang Li in the private room, and photos of Liang Li and me eating at the restaurant. The photos were clearly cropped and angled intentionally to make it look like Liang Li and I were having an affair, and that Fang Yun had caught us in the act. There was even private information about my family, including a photo of my mom's suicide attempt at the care facility. My fingers gripped the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. New messages kept flooding the group chat. Never thought Director Qin was that kind of person, hitting on his girlfriend's best friend so blatantly while they're still together. Heard his mom try to kill herself because his dad cheated. Like father, like son. I heard Liang Li's been sleeping with him for ages. How can scum like him get promoted? Promoted? Scumbags like him shouldn't even be in the company. Fire him. My phone vibrated again. It was a private message from Director Wong. Qin Yang, this whole situation looks pretty bad, and it's already affecting the company's image. You definitely won't be going to the branch office now. Jiang Yi is taking your place. Why don't you resign voluntarily? It'll save face for everyone. My temples throbbed violently, and spots danced before my eyes. The most jarring image was the photo of my mother lying in the hospital bed, her emaciated wrist wrapped in blood-soaked gauze, her eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. It was her most painful, vulnerable moment, yet someone had secretly taken a picture to be used as gossip fodder. Suppressing the rage boiling inside me, I dialed Liang Li's number directly. As soon as she picked up, her first words were, "It was Jiang Yi." I know. Who else could it be? I stared at the photo, took a deep breath. He's really forcing my hand, making me play dirty. If he wants to play dirty, let's see who has more skeletons in their closet. I'm no stranger to Jiang Yi. You could even say I know him very well. He first entered my life as Fang Yun's first love. They dated for 4 years in college before breaking up after graduation. He's certainly a man with methods. Otherwise, Fang Yun wouldn't still be hung up on him after all this time. No wonder I couldn't compete. Every time he feigned weakness or pretended to be magnanimous, Fang Yun's heart would soften. For instance, when he got sick, Fang Yun would nurse him day and night, barely leaving his side. Or like on my birthday, when he got blind drunk because a work project failed, Fang Yun immediately ditched me. Mid-cake cutting, ran off to pick him up from a bar, and didn't come home all night. But his manipulations weren't reserved just for Fang Yun. Jiang, he navigated his way through all sorts of women. From naive college girls to jewel-laden socialites, his list of conquests was astonishingly long. The most outrageous part? He even dared to mess with CEO Wong's wife. I once saw him with my own eyes, arm around Mrs. Wong, going in and out of a hotel, far too intimate to be just friends. Only naive Fang Yun still believed Jiang Yi was that pure, devoted white moonlight of her memories. Liang Li called while I was leisurely brewing tea in a restaurant. What did the company say? Hot water streamed into the cup, the tea leaves swirling as they unfurled. Suspended pending investigation. I blew lightly on the surface, scum, my tone calm. Might as well treat it as a vacation. Perfect. They're basically forcing you to resign. Liang Li's voice trembled with anger. I took a sip of tea. The temperature was just right. As long as you're okay. Liang Li choked up suddenly, her voice dropping. Everyone at work told me. If you hadn't taken all the blame, I would have. It was the right thing to do. I cut her off. This whole mess started because of me. There was no reason for you to get dragged into it. Well, isn't it Director Qin Yang, the company's man of the hour? A repulsive voice sounded from behind me. I sneered inwardly. Speak of the devil. Jiang Yi stood there, arms crossed, clad in a tailored designer suit, looking as flashy as a peacock displaying its feathers. This restaurant happened to be a regular spot for company gatherings. He deliberately raised his voice, drawing glances from colleagues nearby. Qin Yang, still in the mood for tea? After such a huge scandal? If it were me, I'd be too ashamed to show my face. Still hoping for that branch office transfer? Sorry, pal, your promotion is mine now. Too bad you couldn't hack it. He grinned maliciously, his voice practically dripping with schadenfreude. Jiang, I said without looking up, my voice even. Got nothing better to do? Hasn't Mrs. Wong been calling lately? I lower my voice. I have some interesting photos here. Care for a look? The smile froze on his face. He lunged forward in a few quick strides, slamming his hands on the table. Qin Yang, what the hell do you mean? Nothing much. Just returning the favor. You gave me such a generous gift, I naturally had to repay you in kind. Qin Yang, you really take the cake for being disgusting. Serves you right that your crazy mother is rotting away in that sanatorium, barely human. Mentioning my mother was the last straw. I flung the scalding tea straight into his sickening face, followed immediately by my fist connecting hard with his nose. Jiang, he stumbled back a couple of steps, blood instantly gushing from his nose. But he quickly plastered on that familiar fake smile, wiping at the blood while glancing towards the entrance. Fang Yun will be here any second. Who do you think she'll side with, you or me? As I stood up, I caught sight of a familiar figure in the doorway out of the corner of my eye. Jiang, he immediately clutched his face, hunching his back dramatically, putting on a look of agony. Fang Yun gasped and practically flew over, unhesitatingly shielding Jiang Yi with her body. Her trembling hand gently touched the wound on his face. How is it? Does it hurt? Should we go to the hospital? Although I'd expected it, seeing Fang Yun's undisguised concern and urgency for Jiang, he still sent a pang through my heart. Jiang, he leaned weakly against Fang Yun's shoulder, affecting magnanimity. It's nothing, Xiao Yun. I was just trying to recommend a better doctor for Yang's mother. He paused, forcing a strained smile. Maybe I was just being nosy. Fang Yun glared at me, her eyes filled with anger. Jiang, he was trying to help you out of kindness. What right do you have to hit him? I slowly unclenched my fist, Jiang Yi's blood still staining my hand. I only ever told you about my mother's situation. How would Jiang Yi know? I stepped closer. And this anonymous report. Don't you two owe me an explanation? Fang Yun instinctively took half a step back, her eyes darting away, but she remained defiant. You and Liang Li were always inappropriately close anyway. What's wrong with reporting it? Serves as a good lesson for you. Jiang Yi burrowed into Fang Yun's arms, shedding crocodile tears. It's all my fault. Consider this my apology to Yang today. Looking at Fang Yun's wary expression, I suddenly felt ridiculous for still clinging to a shred of hope. Forget it. I turned and grabbed my jacket. Fang Yun, being with you for 3 years. I must have been blind. Fang Yun visibly stiffened, her lips trembling slightly. Qin Yang. But just then, Jiang, he let out a timely whimper of pain, and her attention instantly snapped back to him. She fussed over getting him to the hospital, not even sparing me another glance. I walked towards the door without looking back. Behind me, I heard Jiang Yi's phony consolation. Xiao Yun, don't blame Yang. He's probably just been under a lot of stress lately. Outside the restaurant, I took out my phone, found a photo album with the pictures of Jiang Yi and Mrs. Wang getting intimate as they entered the hotel, and sent them to CEO Wang from an anonymous burner account. In the hospital room, Jiang Yi leaned back against the pillows, a gauze patch taped to his forehead. He was scrolling through his phone. Displayed prominently on the screen were photos of Qin Yang's mother's suicide at the nursing home. The comments section was flooded with vile mockery directed at Qin Yang. Fang Yun's gaze shifted from the photos to Jiang Yi's face. It was rare for her to look at him with such a complex expression. Jiang Yi, didn't we agree you were just going to teach a Yang a lesson? Why did you have to post pictures of his mother? Jiang Yi looked up, a flicker of smug satisfaction in his eyes. He blinked, feigning innocence. It's more effective this way, isn't it? A tightness gripped Fang Yun's chest, an indescribable irritation rising within her. Staring at Jiang Yi, she suddenly felt like she was looking at a stranger. Xiao Yun, are you blaming me? Sensing the shift in atmosphere, Jiang Yi reached for her hand, his tone tinged with dejection. Are you angry with me because of Qin Yang? Fang Yun jerked back, avoiding his touch. No. She took a deep breath, her voice cooling. I just don't think you should have used his mother like that. Jiang Yi's expression froze for a moment, before morphing back into the pitiful look that always softened Fang Yun. So what? He deserved it. I just want to make him. The words caught in his throat. He saw the change in Fang Yun's eyes. Those eyes, usually so full of affection for him, now held a trace of disgust. Make him what? Fang Yun asked softly, her voice carrying an unprecedented clarity. Make him suffer? Make him break down? Or make him kneel and beg like a dog? Fang Yun suddenly remembered how, no matter how wild or unreasonable she had been, Qin Yang was always there whenever she turned around. When she was sick with a high fever that wouldn't break, it was Qin Yang who stayed up all night, patiently coaxing her to take her medicine. And Jiang Yi, the man in front of her now, all he did was exploit Qin Yang's vulnerabilities, hurting him without restraint. She recalled Qin Yang's words, being with you for 3 years. I must have been blind. Only now did Fang Yun understand that she was the one who had been truly blind. Xiao Yun, don't go tonight. Stay and keep me company, okay? Jiang Yi pleaded, but his words grated on Fang Yun's ears. She didn't look at him again. Turning, she pulled open the hospital room door. Fang Yun, Jiang Yi panicked. But Fang Yun left without looking back. She desperately wanted to see Qin Yang right now. She found his number, but her finger hovered over the call button, unable to press it. Would Qin Yang forgive her? Or did she have to try and win him back? Outside, the rain poured down in sheets. I sat at my computer, uploading the last piece of evidence that would ruin Jiang Yi. Photos from the private investigator lay scattered across my desk. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. It was an unknown number. I answered. Fang Yun's tearful voice came through the line. Yang, it's me. Can we talk? Get lost. I hung up curtly and immediately added the new number to my block list. Just as I put the phone down, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Fang Yun standing outside, her eyes red and swollen, her hands nervously twisting the hem of her clothes. Yang, didn't you say before that you wanted to eat my cooking? I bought groceries. She held up the bags like a prize, offering a tentative, ingratiating smile. Spicy fish head, your favorite. I glanced at Fang Yun, noticing she was soaked to the bone, her face pale with cold. I spoke calmly. Fang Yun, how many times do I have to say it? We broke up. Please leave. I moved to close the door, but Fang Yun quickly blocked it with her body. Why break up? Is it because of Liang Li? I already checked. There's nothing between you two. You were just using her to spite me. Or is it because of Jiang Yi? I swear I'll cut ties with him. I'll delete his contact. I'll never speak to him again. Her fingernails dug painfully into my arm. I could feel her trembling. Let's not break up, okay? It doesn't count if I don't agree. Yang, you still like me, don't you? Her face held a look of cautious pleading. I met her gaze, my own calm and steady. Fang Yun, you've forgotten again. I have asthma. I can't eat spicy food. The one who likes spicy fish head is Jiang. Things that are dirty are better off discarded. You said that. The bag slipped from her grasp, hitting the floor with a heavy thud. The pressure on my arm vanished. Fang Yun leaned against the doorframe, looking as if she might collapse. I closed the door, shutting her and our 3 years of history outside. Jiang, he got fired. I wasn't surprised when I heard the news. His affair with Mrs. Wang was common knowledge. I heard that yesterday, in front of everyone at the office, CEO Wang slammed a stack of photos right in Jiang Yi's face. The stack didn't just have pictures of him with his arm around Mrs. Wang heading into a hotel. There were also crystal-clear photos of him with various other women, students, interns from the company, female subordinates. There were even hotel check-in records, over a dozen times at just one hotel alone. Actually, I hadn't just sent it to CEO Wang. Every colleague had received the meticulously compiled history of Jiang Yi's exploits in their inbox. I'd even thoughtfully categorized everything. Hotel surveillance screenshots, WeChat chat logs, intimate photos. The works. A colleague I'm friendly with told me Jiang, he dropped to his knees right then and there. The sound, he said, a loud thud, even startled CEO Wang. Jiang, he was apparently slapping himself and crying, begging Wang not to fire him. But CEO Wang just kicked him over and had security drag him out. Everyone thought losing his job was the worst that could happen to Jiang Yi, but I knew getting fired was just the beginning of his nightmare. I knew CEO Wang all too well. After working under him for years, I knew he'd force me to resign and suspended me when I refused over a baseless rumor. So what would he do now that Jiang Yi had actually cuckolded him so spectacularly? When Jiang Yi got home, he found his front door splattered with red paint, covered in graffiti. Homewrecker, shameless, gold digger, die. Inside, the place was trashed. The expensive watch Mrs. Wang had given him was gone, his designer clothes were cut to shreds, and the liquor cabinet was smashed, leaving glass all over the floor. CEO Wang had already sicked his lawyers on him, demanding repayment for all the marital assets Mrs. Wang had spent on Jiang. Jiang, he had already squandered all his money. He was completely broke, didn't have a penny to his name. With Jiang Yi fired, the rumors about me and Liang Li naturally died down. I went back to work at the company. I didn't see Jiang Yi at all during the following weeks. I only heard snippets from colleagues. The court had seized all his assets, leaving him homeless and practically living on the streets, or that debt collectors had cornered him in an alley, beat him savagely, and cut off a few of his fingers. Eventually, desperate, he showed up causing trouble at Fang Yun's apartment. He was slumped on the ground like a beaten dog. The designer suit was long gone, replaced by a cheap, wrinkled t-shirt, and his shoes were falling apart. All his former polish was gone. He was a complete wreck. He asked Fang Yun for money, but she coldly threw him out. If it weren't for you, Yang wouldn't have broken up with me. Jiang Yi's face twisted in fury. He lunged and slapped Fang Yun. Who are you pretending to be? So high and mighty, he roared hysterically. Who was sending me flirty messages when she already had a boyfriend? Who came over to my place while Qin Yang was working late? Now you're blaming it all on me? Bitch, you and Qin Yang can both go to hell. The two started fighting. Eventually, neighbors who couldn't stand watching anymore called the police. Since Fang Yun wasn't badly hurt, just slapped a few times, the police only detained Jiang Yi for 15 days and gave him a warning. Jiang Yi was actually relieved. It meant he could stay safely in the station instead of constantly hiding in fear from CEO Wang's debt collectors. Hearing all this, I just shook my head. I had no interest in getting involved in this whole farce anymore. The very next day, I packed my bags and left for the branch office in City A. Before leaving, I went to the sanatorium to see my mother. I was relieved to hear from the doctor that Mom's mental state had been gradually improving lately. Her emotions were much more stable. She no longer cried out her husband's name in the middle of the night, nor did she hide pills or blades under her pillow anymore. What's more, Mom spoke to me. It was the first time in years she had recognized me. Mom, you just focus on getting better here. Wait for me. Once I get settled in City A, I'll bring you over, and we'll live together. I knelt beside her, resting my chin on her knee, just like I did when I was a child. As I left, I glanced back and saw Mom standing in the doorway, waving at me with a faint smile playing on her lips. The day I left, Fang Yun came looking for me. A light rain was falling. Fang Yun stood downstairs from my apartment, without an umbrella. She was wearing the coat. I'd saved up 2 months' salary to buy her back then. She looked like she'd lost a lot of weight. When she saw me emerge dragging my suitcase, her eyes lit up instantly. Going on a business trip? She asked, jogging over, raindrops trickling down her hair onto her coat. Relocating, I said, turning slightly to avoid her outstretched hand. Leaving today. Her hand froze in midair. Are you coming back? No. We stood there in silence in the rain until the taxi driver impatiently honked the horn. I'm sorry. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper like a sigh. I'm sorry, Qin Yang. Really? I'm sorry. I turned, pulled open the car door, and didn't say another word. In the rearview mirror, Fang Yun's figure grew smaller and smaller, eventually vanishing into the rain. There wasn't too much to handle at the branch office. I'm a capable worker, so I adapted quickly. Half a year later, I was promoted to vice president. I brought my mother over too. Everything was slowly getting better. By the time Liang Li came to City A, it was high summer. She had cut her hair into a neat bob and wore a white shirt with tailored trousers, looking even more sharp and capable than the last time we met. Looks like life's treating you well, she said with a smile. Can't complain. We talked for a long time, and Liang Li brought up Jiang. Did you know? Jiang Yi is gone. What happened? He was being hounded by debt collectors. In a panic, he lost his head and fell from an overpass. Died instantly. I was silent for a moment. To think that the once high-spirited Jiang Yi would meet such a miserable end. You can only call it karma. Fang Yun. She came looking for me last month, Liang Li said hesitantly. She's lost a lot of weight. She wanted to know how you were doing. The shrill, piercing sound of cicadas came from outside. I got up and closed the window. And I didn't tell her where you are. I just said you were doing well. Liang Li took an envelope from her bag. Also, she asked me to give this to you. The envelope was light. Inside, there was only a photograph. It was a selfie we took after watching our first movie together. Fang Yun's eyes were red-rimmed then, saying, Qin Yang, let's promise never to betray each other. On the back of the photo, 3 words were written in pencil. I am sorry. Feeling soft-hearted? Liang Li asked directly. I shook my head and put the photo back in the envelope. Mom was in the yard watering her flowers. Over the past 6 months, she had recovered more and more, even starting to make friends with others her age in the neighborhood. No. I pushed the envelope back towards her. You have to keep moving forward. Some people, some things. When they're in the past, they stay in the past. My path ahead is bright. I won't look back.